Assalamu alaikum, good evening, welcome back to Prime Live. As South Africa continues its journey of healing and transformation, the role of friends and partners like the United States of America is more important than ever. This evening, I'm delighted to be joined by Pastor Mark Burns, a passionate voice for justice, reconciliation, and global faith-based diplomacy. With his unique voice in both faith and politics, Pastor Burns brings a perspective that bridges continents and communities, as well as international journalist and Africa expert Joseph Hammond. Gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to Prime Live.
Happy to be here.
Thank you so much.
Pastor, I'd like to start with you. You've been in South Africa for a few days. Before we get to the meat of the interview, what's your take on the Rainbow Nation?
I absolutely love South Africa. It's one of the few nations that I can actually move here and see the just the similarities between our two nations. Driving on the highways is very similar to driving back in Greenville, South Carolina, and just eating some of the food. The food here is absolutely amazing. And as you can see, I love to eat. And so I'm an expert on eating. And so just seeing the camaraderie and the economic power that I see in South Africa, the developments that are coming up, and a lot of them I'm told are relatively new, but a lot has happened in a short amount of time. And so I've just been absolutely impressed with South Africa for the first time that I've been here.
It's so wonderful and heartwarming to hear visitors coming to the country and seeing the true beauty of the Rainbow Nation. Joseph, just bringing you in, you have lived here previously.
Yes.
Coming back to South Africa, what's your take on our country?
I feel like I'm back home. This is a fantastic country. I did live here previously. And again, yes, the great food. I love the avocados and the great weather as well, too.
Yeah, the weather's always, we in the middle of winter at the moment, but you'd never say that. Pastor, I'd like to start our very serious discussion.
Sure.
You've spoken before about the power of reconciliation and faith. From your perspective, how can the US support South Africa's ongoing journey of healing following so many years of racial inequality and apartheid?
Well, I think it's just information and education. Knowing what's reality versus what's false, cutting through the noise of media. Hence, one of the reasons why I'm here through the Concordia Forum, that I am able to see firsthand where South Africa is. And so the more we dialogue with each other, that's really what changed my whole perspective. For instance, one of the false narratives concerning Islam is that Islam supports terrorism, and that's not true at all. Muslims are not terrorists, just like Christians are not all races. White Christians are not all races concerning in the United States of America. And so you can cut through the noise by simply just conversating with each other. And the Concordia Forum has allowed me to do that with my now Muslim brothers and sisters who are standing together, again, sharing the stage with Dr. Joseph, who is a Muslim, and yet we're able to have so much in common with each other that you can look past the small things that may be different and recognize the large things that unify us as a people, and peace, prosperity, reconciliation. And my message would be the same for the South African community, to realize just because you're black or you're white or you're colored or you're African, you have more in common with each other than you do apart. And to look beyond the things that have divided us and focus more on the things that unite us. We can't agree on everything, but where we can agree on, we'll lock arms together and fight for each other for those particular matters. And that's what brings reconciliation. That's what happened to me. My views have changed. Even recently with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict that is happening right now. And again, because I'm having conversations through the Concordia Forum and having conversations with the likes of Dr. Joseph and Mr. Ahmed, who have opened my eyes to the things that I would never have seen through traditional media, mainstream media back in the United States of America. I'm able to cut through the noise and see my brother, see my sister, see them for who they are, not so much their ideology or their religion, but see them for who they are, and that's just human beings.
I think you've put it so amazingly. Dr. Joseph, let's bring you in as a journalist and as an African expert. The role of the media in promoting and also giving the general public true news and not, as we know, fake news, because we are living in a world of misinformation. How important is it, as Pastor Burns has mentioned, to see for yourself and make up your own minds without the media dictating what you should think?
Seeing is believing, and I think that when you get a chance to travel, as I have, to over 100 countries, you really get to see how media perceptions often misportray, Africa, and that's true here in South Africa and across the continent. I think a lot of people get the false narrative that there is just hope, a lack of hope, and there's despair, and there's war, and there's poverty, and there certainly is conflict, in Sudan, DRC, and stuff like that. But there's a lot of amazing things going on here economically. Here in South Africa, an important economic hub. I was in Kenya last week, another country rapidly growing, in some ways ahead of a lot of other countries in terms of alternative energy, fintech. I was in Equatorial Guinea before that. So there's a lot happening here, and there's a lot of misperception. Seeing is believing. If you can't travel, hearing from people on the ground, citizen journalists, can often be very important.
Thank you so much for that. Pastor Burns, South Africa and the United States have come back from many years of racial injustice. How do you feel that our shared struggles can form the foundation for stronger ties and cooperation between the two countries?
Well, I mean, the fact that even now there's racial inequality that's happening, even though the United States of America have grown significantly by leaps and bounds. And I'm one of those black men who very proud to be a black man, very proud of my heritage, while at the same time I'm governed more by my faith and not the color of my skin. And because of that, that's what has made it easier, Mr. Muhammad, to look beyond the color of a person's skin and see them for they are as a human being. I think South Africa can learn from what America is doing, from what has happened from the civil rights movement in the 1960s, the nonviolent movement led by Dr. Martin Luther King and Dr. Abernathy, and the freedom fighters that came before, and Medgar Evers, who was assassinated as the first secretary of the NAACP, and so many of the great black leaders that paved the way for me to be sitting here today around the world in South Africa as a free black man, able to express myself. And again, that started with conversations. The black struggle in America stopped being a black struggle and it became a human rights struggle. And when you begin to see that, that's how Dr. King was able to bring in Jewish rabbis and Islamic imams, and bring in whites and blacks, Southerners and Northerners and Westerners all together to fight a human rights concern. That's the dream that he spoke of. And so my prayer is that again, apartheid is still relatively new, only 30-something years ago, that many of the people that are still alive, and I had the awesome opportunity to meet with ANC members and former apartheid leaders to hear their perspective of how they're able to look beyond their faults and meet each other at their needs. You have to have a humble heart. You have to be humble. You have to be willing to say, I was wrong. I judged them erroneously. I saw them based off of my fears, because people fear what they don't understand. And when you don't take time to learn each other, when you don't take time to see each other as human beings, then you can easily create and formulate your own opinion. You spoke about the media. I believe the media should be held for crimes against humanity, because they play such a huge role in creating false narrative that's designed to create division amongst our brothers and our sisters, our Islamic brothers, our Christian brothers, our Jewish brothers, and all of the faiths around the world that we have much more alike than we do differently. And so South Africa can learn from that, because you're still on I would consider Genesis steps. You've come a long way, have grown a lot. I mean, again, I'm driving down these roads and I'm hearing stories of this area I was not able to even come into, or this restaurant I wasn't able to come to. And that's very akin to us in the South, where I'm from South Carolina. I live in South Carolina. South Carolina is the state that first seceded from the Union, and we were the state that started the Civil War. So I understand firsthand the deepness of hatred, but through love, through seeing each other as human beings, knowing that you, despite the color of your skin, despite the color of your skin or your race or your religion, you desire the same thing that I do, and that is to live in peace, freedom, and economic empowerment. And that can happen. If it's happening in the United States of America, it most definitely can happen. It is happening here in South Africa.
Dr. Joseph, sometimes we, as South Africans, we don't realize that it's only 30 years since the end of apartheid. And as somebody who lived here and who's been here, who's come back to the country, what have you noticed in South Africa in the last 30 years? Because as a South African, we've seen tremendous growth. We've seen so much reconciliation from the days of former President Nelson Mandela up till today. We've seen the reconciliation taking place. We've seen so many good things happening in South Africa. As somebody who lived here and coming back, what's your view for our viewers throughout the world, in America especially, on South Africa?
Yeah, I'd say, first of all, my perceptions before I, came here, obviously South Africa as a country, everyone knows the United States and knows the incredible story of the struggle against apartheid. Living here, I was, so surprised to find that people really got along in a much better way. There's a much more harmony than they expected, again, so soon. Just 20 years after when I was here, the events of apartheid, between people of all races and all faiths, there seemed to be, at least as an outsider, there's definitely underlying tensions here, and I don't want to say there isn't, but there's a lot more harmony than I would have expected, given how heinous the system was under apartheid. And I think that coming back here after a few years, the food is still great, it's still sunny. But there's a lot more development, like Pastor Burns was saying, the roads, the infrastructure, everything is continuing to improve, which is great, and I think that's happening across society. Maybe not as quickly as many groups would like, and I think there's legitimate concerns about that. But the situation economically for all socio and economic groups is going in the right direction. We do have the correct trendline direction here in South Africa.
Thank you for that, Pastor Burns. You've been very vocal about economic empowerment. We do know the US is South Africa's largest trading partner, but how can the US investment support more youth employment as well as manufacturing, as well as just helping to grow the economy? We do know the South African economy needs a lot of help. We probably have the highest youth unemployment in the world as we speak right now. What can the US do with investment to help South Africans?
Well, obviously, we are currently in a trade discussions. AGOA is set to expire. And the fact that as of April 2025, President Trump and the Trump administration has a 31% tax tariff on South Africa. And that is against, or I want to say against, but that's contrary to what AGOA and AGOA benefits offered. That's no good. And how do we get to get past that? Well, we have to continue our dialogue. We cannot be coy or ignorant to know right now conversations between the Trump administration and the South African government, President Ramaphosa, is at its best. And right now, my prayer is that those conversations and dialogues be dealt with as soon as possible. I mean, again, there are some questions of human rights issues that was brought up in the Oval Office, and because of that, that's one of the issues that is challenging for the United States of America. And of course, I don't represent the United States government, but I can say I am amazed to hear from, in regards to these human rights issues, to hear from Africans who are here. And I know that's something that is an ongoing conversation, but we got to continue that. We got to continue that conversation. We got to have proper trade agreement between our two nations so that we can have proper investments from the United States of America here in the beautiful country of South Africa that can help increase jobs for women, for the young people. If we don't have the young people working, we are in fear of creating a possible nationalism ideology that hurts South Africa. I think it hurts Muslims, it hurts Christians, it hurts Jews, it hurts the marginalized people of this nation, it hurts Afrikaans. And so that's something we don't want to have happen. We want an inclusive economic empowerment country that allows, as we say in America, when the tide rises, all of the boats rise together. And so right now we got to have good conversations with the South African government, which I think is happening. And again, some great things happen, even though I know from the perspective of South Africa, some great things happened in the recent Oval Office meeting. And I'm being told that that has unified even more so the South African people. They're more together now than they were before. But also it's brought to the light that there are some real crime issues that are happening in this nation that maybe wasn't as at the forefront of the national imagination, and now it is. And these are good things because now there are farmers, whether they're black or whether they're white, whether they are small or commercial, they want to be protected. And I just found out concerning this notion of white genocide, and I may be jumping ahead, but concerning this notion of white genocide, the statistic says, and this is coming from white farmer apartheid leaders who you would think would be associating themselves with those white Afrikaners who were in the White House. They are saying from their own mouths, using the statistics, there were over 5,000 murders that took place in the last quarter of 2025. Out of the 5,000 murders that took place in the last quarter, 12 of them were farmers. Out of the 12 farmers that was killed, murdered, 3 of them were white. And so to suggest that there is an attempt on white farmers may be stretching a bit truth according to the data. And this is coming from white Africans who are very, very tied into the farming industry in America. So we have to address those factors. And I think the Oval Office meeting has allowed to bring these conversations to the very forefront of the national attention, which hopefully and prayerfully your government will have more and more law enforcement officers so that all farmers, whether they are African, whether they are white, whether they are colored, or whether they are African, have an opportunity to feel safe in their environment to help produce the food for Africa and for South Africa.
I think you made some very, very important points there. I'd like to touch on a little bit more when it comes to the so-called white genocide that's apparently taking place in South Africa. This narrative has been pushed in certain circles within the US. How do you think Americans should approach such misinformation as you've seen? You've seen the stats. And something very interesting that was said in the Oval Office in the meeting was by the head of the South African trade unions that South Africa has a crime problem, and it affects all South Africans. And I think you also mentioned something very important, that crime or law enforcement has to be improved in our country. So all South Africans, whether you're white, whether you're an Asian, whether you're a black farmer or just a normal civilian, everybody needs to feel safe. So we do understand, and I think the president also alluded to that in the meeting, that South Africa does have a crime problem. And that's something where I think maybe the United States could assist in improving our law enforcement.
Well, absolutely. I mean, President Trump is very strong in law and order in the United States of America. And again, that's one of the reasons why he won so strongly, why so many Americans, even though they threw everything at him and the kitchen sink to try to prevent this man from becoming the 47th president of the United States of America, even tried to kill him, not once, but twice. And then there's been other attempts, other plans to assassinate President Trump. Even though all of that has happened, as I said to the president, the hand of God is over your life, that millions of Americans still voted for him because law and order is a big deal for President Trump and the current administration. Having said that, that is something absolutely, I believe, if we were to help, if that door was to open, that the United States of America could play a great role in helping your law enforcement officers to do just that, protect its citizens. If they're not protected, then it's challenging for investors to want to come. Again, you're finding that in other parts of the African continent and of the world. American investors don't want to come to a place where there's violence that's taking place. They will just keep their American dollars and have it go somewhere else. And so obviously that is a big deal that needs to be addressed, which I'm very happy I'm being told that that's actually been addressed. And again, more importantly, if people don't feel safe, then they cannot do their jobs. And so I'm happy that has been addressed in this nation, and hopefully some good will come out of it. I know some good will come out of it. And let me just say this, and please forgive me because I talk for a long time in regards to how can America cut through the noise. It takes people like it takes, and Dr. Joseph said it earlier. You gotta see it for yourself. This takes me back to why I believe some fake news media outlets that done a horrible job trying to destroy President Trump's name. They still trying to destroy president's name with their fake news, their fake reports, and the court systems that have changed laws just to try to keep President Trump from becoming the 47th president of the United States of America, like we are a banana republic. Those people should be held for crimes against humanity because they are perpetuating lies without actually knowing the truth. So you got to have more people like me who will speak the truth. People like Dr. Joseph who will speak the truth. Again, I don't lean left. I don't lean right. I lean human right. That's where I'm at. And if it's a lie that's hurting people, then we have to speak against it. So I stand for what is right and not what is popular. That's been my motto in life. And my prayer is interviews like this, statistics that are coming out, more white farmers who are willing to say this is shocking. To my understanding, the South African community was shocked that there was blacks and whites was shocked that there was a notion that there was white genocide happening in their country. They were very perplexed and upset that this made it all the way to the White House. And so my message is to look at the statistics, talk to all of the white farmers, not just a very small percentage of the white farmers. Notice that out of the 5,000 deaths, murders, only 12 of them were farmers. Out of the 12, 3 of them were white, and that's just in the last quarter. So there's a crime problem, it sounds like, and all South Africans are acceptable to that. So we got to cut through the noise by having real conversations with everybody. And had I not had the conversation with the white farmer apartheid leaders in your country, had I not had the conversations with those gentlemen who represent, some of them may still be considered racist and more a desire. Not saying that there are white farmers who are racist, but there are a small percentage, according to farmer apartheid members, are still believe in the apartheid system. So those things actually still happen, but they themselves who may be more acceptable or more sensitive to the apartheid era, they themselves are saying there is no white genocide and we're not being targeted as farmers. So it's hard to refute those who disagree with maybe the current government in South Africa, who would, if they could, go back to the apartheid government, which is I'm told, a very small percentage, very small percentage, and it is dying out. But they exist. If they themselves are saying that there isn't white genocide and they're not being targeted, when in reality, 65% of the managers in South Africa are white, when 71% of them are white male. And so, 71% are males. That if that was white genocide happening, then why are so many of the leaders in corporate South Africa are white and a white male? And I think that's something that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah, I want to come in there as well too. I think that the issue of land disposition for a very small minority, as the pastor said, of white farmers is a serious issue. Why? Because of perceptions and what we saw in Zimbabwe, where there has been violent land disposition of farmers, and that is a constant fear. Look, in my own country, the United States, under a Democratic president, under FDR, you had Navajos were dispossessed of 1 million sheep, were killed by the president's orders, administration. You had Japanese Americans lose access to their property and land for years. So this is something that you've seen in a number of countries, and it's something that those communities definitely are aware of, and communities here have similar fears. Regardless of to the extent to what is going on or not, we can talk about the numbers. That legitimate fear, even a small minority, should be addressed so all citizens of South Africa feel safe and secure. And I think that is what, in his own way, President Trump was trying to allude to, because it links to solving the crime issue, which is everyone agreed is an important issue, and also links to the issue of trade, not aid. Because when you improve the perceptions of the country, you're going to increase the potential for trade and investment to flow into the country.
That brings me to my next question to Pastor Burns. You mentioned something very nice: trade, not aid, and I think that's been quite a common mantra of President Trump's new presidency. South Africa does have, as I mentioned earlier on in this interview, we've got the highest youth unemployment in the world at the moment, which could be one of the root causes of the high crime rate that we have in our country. From your point of view, how can U.S. churches, NGOs, and businesses help address these causes? Not by sending aid. I think the days of aid should be over now. It's about empowering young people in South Africa and the rest of the world, where we see lots of young people relying on aid. How can the United States assist South Africa and many other countries around in building the youth again, giving them hope in a very hopeless society that they're living in?
There are many, pro-American organizations that does just that. One of them is the Young African Leaders Initiative, and one of their jobs is to help educate, and these are U.S.-based organizations that goes around the world, especially particularly here in Africa, to help young people be, number one, educated and two, trained. Again, the Bible says that my people perish for lack of knowledge. And what you don't know is killing you. And that's just simple with all of us, whether it be in business, whether it be in academics, whether it be in health. What we don't know is killing us. And so the more dialogue that we have, the more that we have these conversations with each other, the greater the power and the impact, the more the doors are open in South Africa that allows people like myself and Dr. Joseph and others to come into South Africa and to have peaceful, meaningful conversations, looking beyond what separates us and identifying what brings us together. For instance, I've said this analogy before and it came to me recently, but it's the first time I'm going to say it on air. If you are walking in the street and you see a child crying, screaming at the top of their lungs on the side of the road by themselves, it's raining, it's pouring down rain, and that child looks like it's been abandoned. But yet, one significant difference about this child is wearing a swastika bandage and a band on its arm. It's screaming, it's crying, it's in the middle of the road, nobody's helping it, and you see the swastika on this child's arm. Will you bypass that child because of the swastika on the arm, or will your human heart kick into gear? Will your mother instinct kick into gear? Will your father natural instincts kick into gear and reach down for that child and bring that child to safety? And I like to believe, for the most of us that are watching this broadcast and those of us around the world, we would reach for that child and we would embrace that child and get it to safety. That's the heart that we need to be speaking to. That part of the human being is the part that I'm speaking to and I'm coming from. We may not agree with everything. We may have differences of opinion on religion. We may have differences of opinion on ideology. But if I can keep my own heart, my humbled heart, I need to keep myself in a humble place to see the man, the soul of the individual who desperately wants the same thing that I want. Then it is easy to have these conversations with each other by allowing people like us to come to South Africa and other parts around the world to educate my brothers and sisters. There's a one strong saying that says the only time you should be looking down on a person is to lift them up from the ground. And that's the mentality that people like Dr. Joseph and myself have. And so the United States can support these American-led organizations like the Young African Leaders Initiative, empowering them to come here to empower young people, empower women, empower and educate them on how they can be better. I said it a couple of days ago in Eswatini. If you want to become a millionaire, find a problem to solve. If you're looking for problems to solve, money will always come to you. That's one philosophy that I would be sharing with more and more young people. If you want to be successful, find a problem that's the closest to you and go and solve that problem to the best of your ability. When you solve that problem, money and wealth and prosperity financially, it comes to you. You don't have to chase it.
Wow. It's not very many times I'm lost for words, but you've really encapsulated the entire interview. Before we let you guys go, throughout this interview, you've always emphasized faith as a unifying force. What can faith leaders in both of our countries do together to promote dignity, peace, and a common purpose?
Well, again, and I hate to sound repetitive, but what has led me to this place to where I'm standing beside my Islamic brother? I don't see an Islamic brother. I see my brother. You understand what I'm saying? Now, we're linked together because his faith and my faith desires for peace and prosperity. We desire to be respected around the world. We desire to have the basic things that we believe in the United States of America comes from God and not government. That's why in the United States of America, we consider ourselves a republic, because republic says that our inalienable rights come from God and not from laws made by man. That I have basic rights that come from God that allows me to be free, allows me to defend my home, allows me to not be judged by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character, as Dr. Martin Luther King stated, that I can come to my brother who may have a difference of opinion, of faith, or even philosophy, but where I can come together and see him as a man. I can see that he desires the same thing, basic, inevitable rights that comes from God that I desire. And I desire that for him. He desires it for me. I desire it for his children. He desires it for my children. And that's the common ground that we work together. So where we can stand together, we stand together. Where we can't stand together, I don't force him to believe what I believe, and it doesn't force me to believe what he believes. We stand on the principles that we are common on. And if that's the philosophy that more people have, that's how we can make the world a better place. That's how the United States and South Africa become stronger amongst faith brothers and sisters who all of a belief system.
Dr. Joseph Hammond, Pastor Mark Burns, thank you so much. Pastor, before I let you go, thank you for reminding us that healing is not weakness and partnership is not charity, it's justice in action. As you've shared today, the future of South Africa and United States relations rests not only in trade and policy, but in shared humanity, faith, and purpose. We look forward to seeing you back in South Africa, and we look forward to hosting you again. And thank you so much for making South Africa your second home. And thank you so much for saying and telling the true story of South Africa.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
To our viewers out there, we hope you enjoyed this extended Prime Live interview. And for myself and the rest of the team, we're going to take a short ad break. Stay tuned.